Hello everyone and welcome back. So this is the result, and we still have a few more things to tweak. Obviously the distortion is quite strong here, and I think it would be nice to rebalance a few things like the radial, the amount of glow and everything. But what I like that I didn't have in the original shot is this part. So see this glow, this lightness or lightning changing everything around it is actually very cool. So I didn't have that, and I think it gives it a much stronger feeling, much better impact. Okay, so let's talk about the other things. For me, when it comes to rendering or producing the final work, and I'm gonna put this aside for a second and let me fix the grade intensity. Okay, we'll go with 2. And what I do in general is make sure that I have a vignette, chroma aberration, and motion blur. And let's just put them down. So the first thing is vignette, which we saw. So this one I'm gonna scale, and I'll place the vignette to where I'll place the center where it needs to be based on my shot. So if I needed to focus here, I'll create it so that everything else gets darker and the center is, is brighter. The other thing is I have a very simple aberration node, and this you can find online as well. And what it does is it gives chroma aberration, and the default is just fine. It doesn't need anything. And I'm gonna reduce the blur. Right now it has a blur effect, the softness. I'm gonna turn it off. And then if we compare, you will see this small shift. So I always do this, always get chroma aberration, all my renders. And then a sharpen. So a sharpen works like this. Sometimes if I have very large resolution, I would blur it a touch, maybe 0.2, and then sharpen it. But I don't have that much resolution at the moment. Another thing, I use sharpening when I have fire, like this pass. I would sharpen. See. So any illumination or any emissive surfaces are probably sharpened by 1 or 2 pixels, just to make it, crisper. And then I use motion blur. So this motion blur node is pretty heavy because it's going to run the comp multiple times. And what I do is I run it as a post process after I finish everything. But in this case, in some of these passes, especially when we have extreme motion blur, we have to do it in the scene. So what it's going to do is going to analyze the animation, and it's going to time blur it. So it's going to take this and then the previous frame and then the previous frame and try to blend all of them. So let's put 0.5 in the shutter time, and then shutter samples is going to look up 5 frames. And if I set this, you'll see right away that it's day and night. So this to this. And this node is everywhere. Like when it comes to effects, I use it a lot. And I believe all renders, all compositing softwares have this now, but it adds a huge effects. Even like it interpolates properly what's gonna happen. So we'll inject that in here. And then I also do it after. So that this one is to fix the blurriness of the the sharpness of the image itself. And you see now the sorry, I got sidetracked. this one is the blur node is to fix the sparks itself, and then the last one we're going to add is for everything. So it's going to be fine to add it on top as well. And the sharpen node, we have to make sure that the image is clamped or doesn't have a massive range. Otherwise we're going to get these effects. Set it to 1. Yeah, something like that. But if you have a pixel that has a negative value or a very, very bright value and the one next to it is very dark, then it's not gonna work. It gives you that that issue. And then for color correction, I use very, very basic tools. So I use a grade node to do a hue set, a balance shift or a white balance, and it's very, very simple. Grade node, white point, and I change this. So if I wanted this to go in the bluish tone, I would pick an orange color. See, this is how white balance works in real life. You take the white and then you tell it, this is my actual white, and then it does the inverse of that. And then if I wanted to go into warm, I pick a blue color. But let's try something like this. I think it could work. And then I would use a color correction node and tackle or work on the shadows, the midtones, and the bright tones individually. And the best way to visualize which range is what is to test, and this tells you where the ranges are. So what I do is I play with this to get, to separate the bright, mid, and shadows. And now I think we have better range, better capture, so we can brighten up the highlights, the center. We can saturate maybe a touch, and then the shadows we can gain down a bit, and we can give them a lift. So we can give them a gamma offset to make them look darker or have a specific color tint. We can go red, and this is a quick color correction on top of everything. Now this is a massive color correction. It's quite big, yeah, but it looks good. I like this. And we still get the fires and everything. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And then the last one is the grain. So for me, I turn apply only through alpha, turn that off. And then I lower the scale. So we'll pick this preset. Let's try this one. And then the intensity I'm gonna lower. So the noise is generally in the blue channel, but I don't wanna overdo it. And the last thing I wanted to see. The last thing I add is a lens distortion. And this is default in Nuke. And honestly, I don't know how this node works. I just play with a parameter to give me some distortion. Right now, what I'm using, let me copy the node. So this is the settings I use. Spherical, fisheye, stereography, stereographic, and this is what I get. That just a small distortion in there. And that's it. Let's cache a couple of frames. And then save this to disk. Now, the last thing we can do is, after we cache this, is to retime that impact using Offlow node, and this requires Nuke X, unfortunately, which is pretty expensive. So with this, we can, take those 20 frames and just speed them, like do a you know, a ramp up, and just have that 15 frames happen in 10 frames instead, just to get that part to look, you know, a bit more aggressive and happens faster. So I'm gonna cache from here all the way to the end, and then we'll take a look at the next video and see what to do next. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.